Let's move on now to the Minnesota Vikings training camp preview, where we're going to break down the top stories both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. But before we do that, if you have not already, hit the subscribe button and also ring the bell to get notified when we release new content. We're doing a training camp preview for all 32 teams. We have a bunch of other series coming out as well throughout the rest of the preseason. But also, too, during the regular season, we will be coming out with weekly prediction videos, including all of the Minnesota Vikings games. So if you want to get those prediction videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel and also ring the bell to get notified when the Vikings predictions come out. And Ryan, let's get into it here.
Let's do it.
Minnesota Vikings, unfortunately, just we're not able to do too much in adding players just because of some cap concerns. But I think one thing that they did and that was crucial was actually Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator. And typically we start on the offensive side of the ball, but I think that's actually I kind of want to start on the defensive side of the ball because I think that was a big acquisition that wasn't in the draft. And I think that to me, I think is the top storyline is how is his philosophy going to be implemented into this Vikings team? Because defensively, they struggled last year. They really struggled. I get why they didn't draft a cornerback with their first pick in the first round of the 2023 draft because it's hard to pass up on Jordan Addison, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But in general, their secondary really struggled all year. Defensive line struggled, but also then, too, they lost Dalvin Tomlinson and Zadarius Smith, I believe. To the Cleveland Browns. So it's where are they going to find that production? Are they going to change up the formation as a whole? Is it just going to be a rough year defensively, and they're just going to have to hope Justin Jefferson gets 3,000 receiving yards? And so that's going to be key to play out. Or who are going to become the star players for the Vikings defense?
Yeah, and I mean, looking at their roster, I just don't think they really have any. And Daniil Hunter, I believe, is still there. Yeah, and they did get Marcus Davenport over from the Saints. It's just not a whole lot of guys that like you really look at and I call them Tuesday guys, but that's Tuesday's the first day of the NFL new week. And like, all right, we got to figure out how to stop X, right?
Oh, okay.
And like, there's nobody on this team that I really view as like a Tuesday guy.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. And I mean, and Daniil Hunter used to be that guy, and he is getting up there in age. And so, but even then, you're right. If it's just that one guy, and then like, okay, then we don't have to worry too much about.
Yeah.
And like we can double team him. No one else. We don't really be worried about too much else. And so,
yeah. And I do have a lot of faith in Brian Flores to kind of get this defense to play above their expected level, but I mean, I'm expecting them to be below average and just not super great. And I don't have a whole lot of faith in them to really be competitive, especially in a division now. You look, Chicago's offense got a lot better this offseason. The Detroit Lions offense should be a lot better, and it was already improving last year. And then it's like, Green Bay is a little bit of a wild card, but from the inklings we saw from Jordan Love last year, like they could also have a really explosive offense. And so I just don't know if this defense is really going to be able to be covered up.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And then honestly, that kind of leads into the offensive side as well. It's like we obviously know Justin Jefferson's going to be the guy. But Dalvin Cook now has been released. He's not on the team. And so can Alexander Madison make up for – or like be the full-time starter and get a lot of those carries as well? Can TJ Hawkinson also have an increased role? And then also with Jordan Addison the right pick as well. So kind of going back to them is like we know Justin Jefferson is a clear Tuesday guy. Can they have multiple Tuesday guys on the offensive side of the ball? Because with the deficiencies on the defensive side, they're going to have to just keep winning these shootouts. And that's what they were able to do last year. And they were cardiac kids, so to say.
Yeah.
But
well, they got –
it's hard to do that 2 years in a row.
Yeah, they got lucky last year. I mean, they got lucky multiple times, actually. Like, they shouldn't have won the Colts game. The Patriots game was a coin flip game.
Should have won the Bills.
They should have beat the Bills.
Should have beat the Lions in week 2, I think.
Yeah, like they had a few games where you look at it and it's like, okay, like that's not a win every year. And so it's going to be really interesting to me to see what they can put together, because if you take out those like even if you take out 2 or 3 of those lucky wins, it's like they're 10-7 and they're right back in the middle of the pack with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be really interesting to see. I think Kirk Cousins entering a contract year?
That's a good question. Let me look that up. I know that it's getting close. I mean, he's 34, 35.
Yeah, I want to say this is his 4th year there, and he signed a 4-year, like $88 million deal or something. It's
signed in 2018.
Yeah, maybe it was like a 5-year deal then. But anyways, I just have a lot of concerns. I also think outside of Christian Darrisaw, they might struggle a little bit on the offensive line. And I know last year they had a lot of injuries. I'm very curious how that offensive line plays out because they definitely struggled last year in that spot. So,
and the other thing that coming into the draft is just like we're trying to figure out what they need.
Yeah.
And I like the Jordan Addison pick because if you're going to have any hope with the team, it's you can't just have it be. What's it called? Oh, just Jefferson or nothing. So you're going to have teams be able to spread that defense, maybe take a little bit of pressure off the offensive line because they got to have a linebacker back. But in general, though, it is tough to see overall how this team improved because they did lose a lot as well. And so, I don't know, the talent that they got in the draft is always questionable.
Yeah. Well, they only had 1 first-round pick, and then their 3rd-round pick was pick 102. It was the last pick, I believe, of the 3rd round as a compensatory pick. And so you just can't always count on those guys to come in and contribute. And so it's going to be really interesting to me to see what the Vikings do. They did it last year where they were able to surprise a lot of people with, I think, the talent that was on their roster. But in my opinion, they've definitely put all their chips on that offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just going to hope the defense can piece it together at certain times. So
this is this where I don't know. There's a void year, looks like, in 2024.
Okay.
So I guess maybe he signed through 2027, but it's or maybe actually they're just pushing his cap space back and he's not signed. Through actually. So
yeah, well,
it's coming up. He's 35. It's coming close.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to watch, but let's go ahead and wrap up the Lions training camp preview there. If you guys have not already, please, or not the Lions, the Vikings. My bad. Let's go ahead and wrap up the Vikings training camp preview there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you think the Vikings are going to do in 2023. You think they're going to continue to be at the top of the division and be one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL, or do you think they're going to take a step back? Maybe they got a few lucky wins in 2023. They lost a lot of talent, and it's just hard to maintain that top-level status in the NFL. So let us know what you think down below, and other than that, we will see you guys next time.